Hey guys, Coach K from flagfootballhq.com. We're going to do a little bit of a different type of X&O discussion today. We're actually just going to walk through formations. Formations really are the base of what is at your offensive system that you're going to develop. Even when we start talking about defenses, you're going to start talking about, well, how are we going to design a defense to address certain different types of formations? So with that, let's hop into it. So what are we trying to do when we create a formation? A couple of mistakes, that I see first off is I see some teams using way too many formations. A lot of those teams are teams that are huddling, and so their coach has a different formation that they're going to put them into. And even if they have plays they really know to run well, I see this a lot of times with reverses that they're trying to run. They'll put them in some odd formation, they'll run the reverse, and lo and behold, the wide receiver crashes into the running back or crashes into the quarterback, and there's a kind of a look on their face of what the heck are we trying to do here, So I see a lot of teams use way too many formations. What we're trying to do when we create formations is at the very base of it, we're trying to create conflict and confusion on the defense by the use of a formation. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that here in a second. We're also trying to create flexibility in our offense. And what I mean by that is you want to create formations you can do multiple things out of. We have 3 formations that we run. Really, I've ran a team last year. We ran a team for the first 4 weeks out of 1 formation. Then we added a trips formation to it, and we ran really the remainder of the season just out of those 2 formations. This year we're going to add a third, and really that's really all I would foresee ever using. So because the formations we use give us a lot of flexibility, we can run most of our plays out of any of those formations. That's kind of how we went through picking our formations. We're looking to create open space on defense. The more that you can isolate people on a certain defender, the more that you can open up a side of the field, the more successful your offense is going to be. And then lastly, we want formations that you're able to address both the zone and man-to-man coverage, especially as you get older. We see a ton of man-to-man defense in the leagues that we play in. However, occasionally we do run into that team that is playing a zone, and you just don't want to have to create something special. Really, your offense should be able to address how to attack both as zone and man-to-man. So let's talk first. I had mentioned that you want to create space and you want to create conflict on defense, and the center out play is really the best example of this. What you're going to see here is you're going to see the X and the Y receiver. They're going to bust across this formation, bust across the defense. This person, the defender right here, is going to drag with him. Even if he's in a zone, he's going to drag with him. If it's man-to-man, what we're doing is we're creating a lot of confusion here, and we're essentially going to pick the center. And I shouldn't say we're going to pick the center. Defense is going to pick their own person here. And so when you run this play, you're creating a ton of space over here. You're isolating your running back on this back safety. A lot of times, we're not seeing 2-3 zones. 3-2 zones here in this case. We're seeing man-to-man, and so we're getting a running back isolated here after a play action where we're creating space where the defender's coming up in the play action, then all of a sudden he's having to backtrack. So really, we've created a formation here where we can create a lot of different space, we can create a lot of different issues and confusion on the defense. And so we'll see this play run through here. And we don't see the defense defending it, but you can see how we can create this space over here for these 2 players to work in. So with that, let's hop into a couple different formations. First formation that we see a ton of is the pro formation, and I will tell you this is my least favorite formation. We don't have the pro formation in our playbook at all. From a defensive perspective, it's the easiest formation to defend. A lot of times what you're seeing is you're seeing the X and the Y isolated on 2 people out here, which sounds like you're creating some opportunity for the offense. But really what you're doing is for them to have a throw, or for them to create a pattern that the quarterback can throw to, a lot of times they're having to run slants inside. And that creates a problem because what you're going to see here is you see the center, quarterback, and running back. So if we're defending them in a man-to-man, we're going to probably play the center straight up. Our running back, defender, our linebacker is what we call that defends our running back, is going to be somewhere in the middle of the field. And then because it's an even formation, we're playing our safety right over here up top. So in order to get an easy throw for the quarterback, you actually have to run inside to go to more people. Harder throw is that go route or that fly route, some sort of corner route or an out route. And there's not a ton of quarterbacks that we play with in our league that when you line these wide receivers up on the hash that can make any of those throws on a consistent basis, at least. Yeah, you'll get beat once or twice, but not on a consistent basis. So I can't stand the pro formation. It's in my mind the easiest one to defend. It creates the least amount of conflict in the defense, very little confusion in the defense. Even the defenses that generally don't know how to line up, they know how to line up against a pro formation. So that's one that we don't use. So let's get into a couple that we do use. So our base formation that we run out of is twins. We actually call it base. We don't call it twins in our terminology. And why we like it is because it creates a lot of space for us to operate in. So one, generally if we're facing a man-to-man, you see that this entire side of the field is wide open. Okay, we can attack that in a lot of different ways, right? We can just run a straight outside run this way. We can run a jet this way, which again, those are just two run plays, really easy to attack this with. If this defender here slides in this way, then all of a sudden you have a really easy swing pass out to this side. The other thing, and this is kind of counterintuitive, is you can create a ton of space over here, especially when they're playing man-to-man. Because if you drag these receivers across the field, just like we did in that center out play, all of a sudden this side of the field is also wide open for the passing game. So I really like this formation. It creates a lot of conflict in the defense. It can attack both a man and a zone because essentially we're flooding this side of the field with these two wide receivers. And so it's to us why we run our base out of this. So the next logical place to go to is trips. And I mentioned that we ran predominantly out of one formation last season, and then we added a second formation, which was trips. Trips, just like you're seeing at higher levels, whether it be high school, college, pros, it's the hardest defense from a passing perspective to defend. You can watch videos on YouTube that will specifically address alignment and defense against trips defense, and they're complicated. Okay, I mean they're the types of defenses that you're going to need time with your players in order to install. And the great thing for an offense in flag football is those coaches don't have time to do that. The coaches are, I think, plenty smart enough to figure out how to address trips. But, from a defensive situation, we typically put 4 calls in. One's our base. We have 2 blitzes, and then we do have a zone that will fall back in. But we don't have time to address if they're going to line up in trips, here's the type of zone that we want you to roll into. We don't have time to address that in practice, quite frankly. So what ends up happening is you get 3 defenders playing heads up on these wide receivers over here, and you can get an open wide receiver really easily. You could just run a really simple play. You can run your running back and your X deep, and you can have your Y slide in right behind him, do a slant, do a in, and all of a sudden he's going to be wide open, especially if you're taking your center out this way. Safety's going to go off with these deep routes here. You're going to have one-on-one here with the wide receiver and who's ever covering him. And guess what? He just got picked probably by his own players once this wide receiver made a hard cut this way. So you're gonna it's an easy 5-10 yards. And oh, by the way, he's kind of by himself because all the other defenders are back here. So if we have a missed tackle, we have potential for a big play. So I love trips. We're going to show a couple other things. So one of the things, let me rewind this real quick, that we can do is, again, we're creating a ton of space because what's going to end up happening here is you're going to have the defense, and it's not coming up here for some reason, I apologize for that, but you're going to have the defense, we'll do a short right there, that's going to align like this, and so all of a sudden you do this Yoda, which for us is this jet Y, it's wide open over here. Generally this kid that's playing heads up on the center is a slower footed kid, probably a good athlete, but still a little bit slower footed. And so you might get your safety cheating over this way a little bit, but he's 10 yards back, so you automatically have those yards. And this guy, he has to go through these 3 people in order to defend this jet. So it's a really some conflict. Another thing that we can do out of this is we can show twins, and then pre-snap we're going to shift into that trips. And we do this with the center out all the time. It's really nice. So defense sees one thing, you have a defender that's back here, all of a sudden he's going to come right up here once you shift this running back into the trips formation. And now you can throw all these guys across the formation. And so there's almost no way the center's not open on a 5-yard out. And then not to mention, same thing like the prior play, there's nobody else over here. If there's a missed tackle, if this guy's a couple yards behind, if your center's a better athlete than the guy defending him, this could turn into a big play. We did this specifically, and we're getting 10 to 15 yards a pop most times when we could execute it correctly. The next formation, and I really like this formation. We don't use it. I see a lot of other teams that do use it. Is spread tight, and spread tight is a nice formation because again, what you're doing is you're bunching a lot of these defenders in here. You're creating space on two sides of the field, and so really what you're able to do here is, I've seen a really nice play, and I think, let's see here, we can go to that right now. So you'll see right here where the center sneaks out over here, right? So you're holding these defenders over here in a man-to-man. You're holding the safety here in the middle of the field because he has to help cover these two deep guys. You're taking the running back over across here, which he's going to run across the person that's defending the center. And then the center, if you're going to run this, you're going to coach it to where the center is going to go behind the running back. So he's going to pause for just a split second while the running back clears it out. Quarterback rolls out. You could do a shovel pass. You could do a lob pass where the center is running underneath it. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do here where the center is going to be open. The other thing again is you can create a lot of conflict over here because again this side of the field's wide open, right? So you can run some motion over here. Odds are you're going to end up taking the running back's defender. You're going to get his eye discipline looking over to this defender, and so all of a sudden that running back's wide open. You snap the ball really fast, and you got a quick 5-10 yards, which is a great goal line play. A great play when you're in that red zone. When the red zone in flag football is probably about 10 yards in, so it's a good way to get a quick 5, maybe 10 yards. We're going to talk about is the spread formation. The spread formation, again, we don't use it a ton. We talked about creating flexibility in your formations, and the spread formation to me does not give you a ton of flexibility. It doesn't really create any natural running lanes. You do have a lot of opportunity for some conflict over here. However, so the next one is just our spread Skywalker. If you've read our tags blog, you'll know that we have a couple tags. Skywalker for us means stack, and so again, we're just stacking the X and the Y. This is something that you could do out of any formation, right? So you could have twins Skywalker, you could have trips Skywalker. All Skywalker means is your Y lines up behind your X. That's one reason I really, really like that tag, is because that gives you a ton of flexibility. You can actually show a couple additional formations without really having to practice them a ton. And in flag football, I'll tell you, there was a team that ran actually a trips stack against us, and that's a tough play to defend. That's a really, really tough play to defend, especially if you're not practicing against it. We did happen to see that team a couple different times during the season, and by the end, our players kind of knew how to address that stack. But the stack, unless a team's practicing against it, it's really a hard concept to defend. So one of the things I really like is the bunch formation. Here you see Iowa lining up in the bunch. You see this a ton in the NFL. You see this a ton at the high school level. Really the point of the bunch, and they're showing the bunch right here, but the other point of this is that they're isolating a receiver over here. And so, I kind of thought a long time, well, how do I replicate this? And really, you could say, well, just line up in a bunch with your 3 wide receivers, and to me that's the same as trips, right? I mean, that's the exact same as trips. So how we came up with a way to replicate this, our center as the center of that bunch, and I think a lot of times you forget that your center is, he's a wide receiver. The only difference between him and your X and your Y, because he's on the line every play as well, is that he's snapping the ball. And a lot of teams I find really just kind of give up on the center. It's kind of their throwaway position. I'll tell you, 2 of our best 3 wide receivers are our center. They're not as fast as footed as the people that we're putting on the outside, so there's a reason they're playing center. But we're calling plays specifically designed for that center in the passing game a lot of the times because they can catch the ball. So I think a lot of people forget that the center is really is we run a really, really simple concept called fly. And it's always fly C, fly X, fly R, fly Y. But the basic is every player on the team is going to be running that go or that fly route, except for the one that we name in the play call. So this is fly C. So our fly C is running a 10-yard curl. And so we have two reads on this play. One in the bunch formation, in a fly, one of our reads is always going to be the Y. He's isolated out here. You're going to have a safety so concerned with these people in the middle, you really are creating one-on-one coverage here on the outside. The other read right here is the center. And again, I really like this because what you have is you have three players that are running full speed downfield, and then all of a sudden you have one that stops and comes back. And so, the quarterback knows that this is a 10-yard route. The quarterback can read this correctly. You're going to have an open receiver here. And this isn't the biggest play because odds are, the second he stops, you are going to create some separation, but there's going to be, a defender pretty much on him right there after he makes that catch. And, once they see that throw, these guys here, these defenders are going to cut off their route, so they're only 5-10 yards behind him. So again, it's not a huge play opportunity, but it's 10 yards, and when you only need 25 yards for a first down, 10 yards of play, that's going to get you there. So that's one of the plays that we run out of this. So another thing I like to do in this bunch formation is I like to use motion. And motion here is a little bit different. In other words, we're not keeping our quarterback under center when we do motion. But let me just show you what we do here. So pre-snap, we move our R under X at the same time over here. And what that does is that creates mass confusion on the defense. Mass confusion on the defense. So you motion there pre-snap, you get the center right back under the quarterback quickly, snap the ball, and that play, the center cross that we talked about earlier, running a center cross out of this, running a center out of this, and all of a sudden you've already created this confusion where defenders are probably bumping into each other on this side. It's a really, in my mind, it's a really hard play for the defense, especially an undisciplined defense, which let's face it, 70% of the defenses you're going to face are undisciplined. It's a really, really hard play for them to defend. We have a goal line, and I don't teach this. And when I say I don't teach it, I don't put it in for our kids to memorize. I have 3 plays that I kind of keep. I have a play calling sheet, and I'll show you that here on another video. But I have a play calling sheet. On the back of that sheet, I have 3 specific goal line plays. And as much as I can't stand coaches that get in the huddle with their play sheets and they're flipping through their papers and they're calling plays that way, I get it. I get why they do that. So I shouldn't say I can't stand it, but I would prefer to teach my team my offense. I'm trying. My goal is teach my team the offense that they're going to run, as they're going up and down the field. I understand that the goal line presents some unique circumstances and opportunities. And so as that, I do want to have a couple plays, in my pocket that we can run down there. I'm not going to make them memorize them because, again, that's the only time we're going to run them. We might run them 3 times a game, and when I say 3 times a game, we might be in a situation where we're trying to score an extra point and we're out of our base offense probably 3 times a game. So that's why I don't make them memorize them. But this is, again, this creates a lot of things, and a lot of those extra point opportunities you're passing. So this really is just a pure pass formation. We did run a reverse out of this for a couple years ago where we had the running back take the ball in front of the quarterback. It was a front handoff and go around, and it actually was pretty successful. But again, this is just kind of a formation that we're using in that extra point situation. Okay, the last formation I want to talk about is this 2-back formation. We do not run it. It's been run against us, and I think it's a really effective formation to run plays out of, specifically to run running plays out of. At the younger levels, if I was coaching 1st and 2nd grade, I might run exclusively out of this, maybe this and a twins or this and a trips. But at that level, you probably only need 1, maybe 2 formations anyways. I mean, heck, I do that at older levels. But I think this is a really effective formation because here's what ends up happening with the defense. So assuming your defense is in a man-to-man formation, which most of them will be because at that age level, you know, zone is a little bit more of a foreign concept. But here's what happens is you're going to tell this defender right here and this defender right here to just guard the people across them, right? So, hey, X guy here, you take R, X guy here, you take X. Okay, so you're going to essentially mirror on defense the formation that they're lining up in. And there you see it right there. So that's what we're talking about. Then here's what the offense is going to do. Is they're going to crisscross these guys, and it's going to cause mass chaos right here, right? This guy is going to try to get over to his R that he's trying to defend. He's going to bump into this guy, if not this guy, if not the safety who's coming up. This player here is going to do the exact same thing, trying to get to this side. Creates mass confusion. And if you remember, one of the things we like about different formations is I like to line up defenders together because it gives me the ability to create confusion on behalf on their behalf. So let's go back and let me show you the plays that I see that's most effectively running out of this. It is more of a run formation, but a lot of times what you're going to see is you're going to see the X go first. You'll either see a fake or a handoff to him. The R goes second, same thing, a fake or a handoff to him. And you'll see the Y coming around, and he's your third handoff option. And again, wide open over here, especially with all the confusion you just created here. These guys are just stepping over each other to try to get to their man. And so there's a potential huge play opportunity on this. So again, let's run through that again. You see what they're doing. You can also pass out of this. You know, you can do some things with the center. You can do some things with your R and your X. Specifically, if you run your center down the field just on a go route, run your Y on a go route, heck, run your X on a go route, and then you take this running back and you kind of run this little almost wheel route out of the backfield. He's going to be open over here. This guy's not going to be able to get to him. He's going to be running into the center. The defender, he's going to be running into this defender. This guy's going to be open over here. So there's some passing plays out of it too. So it's a formation, like I said, we don't run it. But at the lower levels, the first, second grade levels, even the third, fourth grade levels, I mean, that's where we saw a lot of this. We had a team that ran out of this almost exclusively, and I thought it was really effective. I think this is a really good formation. So that's kind of it for formations. We talked through those, parse through it, see what you like. This is definitely not all the formations you can run in flag football. You know, in flag football, the rule is that the center needs to be on the line. After that, there's no rule about who else needs to be on the line in most cases. You know, you can put everybody in backfield. You know, you can have a line starting right behind the quarterback with the rest of your players. So, you know, you really can do whatever you want. But again, you know, as you're going through there, just kind of keep in mind what you're trying to do formationally so that you can make sure that you can accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in your offense. That's it. Hope to see you again. Thanks.